to a show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's me, it's Dante. And you already know, it's Off the Mats podcast. This week's guest is going to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappler, anime cosplayer, and a Las Vegas Raiders fan. See, almost said Oakland. You almost caught me slipping, but nah, I pay attention. I watch sports. My guest for this episode is going to be Katerina. Yes. But I feel like I'm messing it up, so we just gonna go with Kat. So what's up, Kat? How you doing?
I'm good, Dante. How are you?
I'm doing great. We've actually been talking for a podcast length of time prior to hitting record, so yes. I feel like we've already done the episode.
Right?
It's all right. It's good times. So one of the big things with having you on is just following your Instagram. First off, seeing all the Raiders posts, even though I'm a Lions fan, we don't got no beef with y'all. But sometimes I do feel like some personal attacks there. It's like, man, no, Lions fans don't post like this. And maybe we need to step up.
You know what? I will be honest. Like, I have some Charger fan friends and other like Steelers and when I see that, my my family, my Raider family, like posting certain things, I think it's funny as hell, but I'm just like, ooh, I better not repost that.
I mean,
I'm gonna hear it.
Sometimes people got to understand, where they're at, though. They got to know. It's like, okay, certain posts you just have to understand. It comes with the territory.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Raider, and that's one thing I can say I love about the fan base is that we know how to even laugh within ourselves, but we know too how other fans are and how other teams are, and they just they're just badass. They're badass with it. They say it how it is.
I will say, if there's any fan base that I am genuinely terrified of, it is the Raiders. Just when you watch the games, you see the black hole, you see just like the chaos that's going on. I'm like, man, fuck going to one of those games. Like,
what?
I might disappear.
Well, you know what? The thing about when I think about that, because I get that a lot. People always tell me, and I've even had that done, because when I'm really all decked out in my Raider gear, my jersey, Derek Carr jersey, Bo Jackson jersey, whichever one I'm wearing, black itself, the color is an intimidating color. And when you get, and then when you get a big fan group like that, all blacked out and real hard, and we're just hardcore. We're just loyal fans, and we just don't. It's just like, I hate to say that, but it's like a street mentality. You know who you're messing with. We're not going to bullshit you. We're going to say it like it is. When we're going to do things like it is. We're not going to front you. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. There's, oh well, go kick rocks. But but that's the thing about us. And I think that's why we're really hated. Not just the team itself as well, but the fans. We're not going to step down to shit. We're not going to, you think you can sit here and pull and say what you want, but in the end, it came down to it.
Be accountable. Yes, you say something to any group really, but it's like, understand there are consequences.
Yeah.
I will say, when I'm out here in Baltimore and when the Ravens have a home game and they wear the blackout uniforms where they're all black head to toe, there's something intimidating about seeing them come out. When Ray Lewis used to play, and they come out head to toe, all black, and it's usually against the Steelers, and it's just that thought is like, man, we might see a homicide on the field today. And like, I don't know if I really should watch this game, but I can't look away. And those two fan bases always have just the two teams always have classic games.
Yeah.
Uh, both sides, always coming up. And then the Raiders, I went to a Raiders game out here against the Ravens home game. I'm not gonna repeat what that score was. It was a rough score for y'all, but um, I took a picture of it and sent it to some of my friends that are Raiders fans, and let me just tell you, those reply texts weren't nice. So
Oh no.
I wasn't bragging. I'm not a Ravens fan by any means, but it was just like, hey man, you get your team together. It was in the dark. It was during the dark years. You guys weren't on the upswing. I think
Yeah.
the Raiders this year, they look promising. That whole division looks like
Yeah.
everybody's in contention. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we're all excited. I mean, they're already starting the preseason pretty well, so we're excited to see how they're going to do this season coming up. And I'm gonna tell you what, no matter what happens, win or lose, it's gonna be a Raider style game for sure.
Of course. Like there might be,
A
it
few
might it,
fights and
you can look at it like, oh, it's not looking too great for the Raiders, and it's like, yeah, well, you know what to do.
yeah,
Just like make it grimy now.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
for you,
Mhm.
I guess with this being a jiu-jitsu podcast, loosely a jiu-jitsu podcast,
Yes.
um, what got you going into jiu-jitsu?
Well, so I've always been. I have honestly I've never heard of jujitsu until my daughters actually, because I was big into kung fu, and even before then, my dad. So this is where all like started from, straight from my dad. You and I were about the same age. We're about the same age, same era, and I lived in a home where there was only one TV. So we had to watch what dad was watching. So my dad was watching always the football games every Sunday. And when he wasn't watching the football games, we were watching martial art movies, the old school, Chinese, Japanese samurai ninja movies, but they had the dubbing of the English. Where it didn't match. And Bruce Lee also was a major. My dad is a huge Bruce Lee Raider Laker fan. Those three things I remember growing up. Those were the main three teams and things that, and, martial arts that was in the house. My dad even bought the book that Bruce Lee wrote. And my dad used to always, phrase Bruce Lee quotes, and we would watch over and over, like Enter the Dragon, Chinese, I think it was the Chinese Connection with one of the
Yeah,
basketball players that was in it.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes, that was a good one. And but my most favorite Bruce Lee is Enter the Dragon, because when I rewatched it, in one of the fight scenes where all the monks, I think, were all sitting down watching him fight against him and another guy, he does a lot of judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu moves along with kung fu. And that's what I love about Bruce Lee. He didn't just stick to one art, but he created a lot of arts into one. And so that's where I got it. So I went into kung fu. I started doing kung fu in high school. Me and my brother, we got really good, but I stopped after I got married, and then I met my ex, and but my brother continued. My sister did it, but I've always had martial arts. Has always been in my soul. Like I love it. I love being active. And when as we moved here to Arizona, my ex wanted to get my kids into self-defense because they're girls. So he wanted them to learn how to fend for themselves. And I'm big into that. So I'm like, sure. So there's a gym that we, in Surprise, that my daughter started going to, Two Knuckle Sports, with, I can never remember how to say it, but Hanshi Nico or Shihan, and Nico and Bill. So I can't remember which title, but I think it's Shihan, Nico, and Hanshi Bill. Either way, I feel bad if I miss it. I'm sorry. They started training with them, and it's such an amazing gym. And when I would watch my kids, I'm like, I want to do it too. I'm like, that's what I wanted, because it's a mixed martial art gym. So they have jujitsu, they have karate. They have classes. Um, uh, Trying to remember what else. Jiu-jitsu, karate, boxing. I think it's Muay Thai boxing, and another I can't remember. But they also train cage fighting there. So it's like it's really it's amazing just to watch. And then when I saw how my daughter, she's 15 now, but at the time I think she was like 10 or 11, how she took down a boy twice her size, and the way she did, I was like, man, I'm like, my baby did that. I'm like, that's what I want to do. And so I was living vicariously through them doing this. And then what got me into it was, I've always, my kids didn't want me training at their gym. That was their gym. Mommy can't train there. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got to find my own gym. So I never did. I always put that aside. I'm like, oh, I'll do it another time. Then when COVID hit really bad, I had to, take care of my mom, my dad, and my nana. And in that time frame, thankfully, I didn't get sick. But while taking care of them and being isolated, I had to tell myself, I need to learn to love myself, do something that I've always wanted to, get involved in something that I've always been passionate about. I'm single, my kids are, I have almost 3 full grown kids, and then my smallest one. I should be doing what I enjoy. So I remember just scrolling through Instagram, and I came across a page, and I saw Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it was Gracie Baja. And I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, okay. And I watched the video, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I would love to do that. So without even hesitation, I've never done it. So I figured, why not? So I started doing that. I signed up. They gave me a call. I went to class, and I'll be honest, I was fucking scared. I was like, oh shit, I'm getting my ass whipped. I'm like, this is so different, because in Kung Fu, it's the opposite. In Kung Fu, you create distance. You don't allow the person to touch you. Where in grappling, the person has to touch you. So it was real different experience. And I was trying so hard not to punch somebody and not to try to do a fight, because it's not so much like that. It's a different form of art. And
Yep.
and how to be careful, like not to kick a certain way, you're not throwing kicks and stuff. So that's how I got into it, and that's how it started for me.
All right, cool. So, it seems like a, relatively organic approach entering into it. So almost kind of something's always been in the background, and this is just the next stage of growth in your martial arts journey, having come off kung fu. So that's
Most,
cool.
yeah, I'll be honest, I train now because I moved to a different school, because I was trained in North Phoenix at Gracie Baja. And then when I moved to Mesa, I remember I was at work, and I was just trying to find a different gym, because it was like a 45-minute drive. Gas was, getting expensive. I was just like, and I was trying to, manage, my living situation. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna, I gotta find something close by. And then I remember I was at work, and I was researching gyms that was near me, and I saw Soul Fighters, and I was like, oh, okay. And then when I researched and I read the skills, my professor now, Professor Tequeño, like his background and his schooling, and what he did, I was like, okay, I want to try this school out. So I got in contact with him, and he explained to me the classes. I went. The only class I could attend at that time, or that I attended my first class, was a Friday class, and it was a leg lock class, and leg attacks, I guess they call it leg locks. And I was like, at all, I'm like, I love this class. I'm like, I love it. I'm staying at this school. I'm not going anywhere. So that's how it started. With it is continuing my journey with Soul Fighters. I love the people that I train with. It's a very tight knit school. Everyone is, helpful. We push each other very hard. We, they're so encouraging. I love training with them, and I notice how the difference in my techniques and the difference of my style, and how our professor trains us. And and the other professors under him as well. And it's really, I've heard this too from new people that have come in and started training with us as well, is that um, Professor Tequeño's classes are designed to get you ready. It's almost like a military style, and people, and I hear a lot of people tell me, "Wow, this is a different form of training. Like this is pretty awesome." And I was like, "Yeah." I said sometimes people that are not even competing, they look like the way they train, like if they've been competing or they're getting ready for competition. They're not. That's just how we. This is how we train. And what I love about the 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 classes that the professors, they really work you to work the moves many 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 times. And then what I love about it, after you've done that, then we have about, I think, from the last 45 minutes of the class, we do 5-minute rolls, and we're just training. It's like an ongoing, just training. And and I love the feedback that the professors give too. Like they're willing to not just train you, but provide you the feedback, what you should, what they feel you need to improve on. They're very encouraging. So I really love the school that I'm at.
Good. It sounds like you have a solid support group and foundation there. That's always good to hear. When people enter into this, that especially when when kids come into it, you definitely want to always make sure they're entering into a program that they can grow with and really enjoy. But as we as adults enter, it's a little tougher because when you're grown up,
Yeah.
grown-ups aren't out there trying to make friends. Grown-ups are just trying to live their life.
You're right.
So you know
Exactly.
finding that gym where you feel like you don't have to make that effort. The effort is already kind of being made for you. That's good. Glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah.
um, so in your journey thus far with training jiu-jitsu,
Mhm.
has there been any thought about potentially competing?
I actually
What's
did compete. Did my first competition. It was in June. So a little bit about me. So I I suffer bad arthritis. Like I have bad arthritis in both knees. It started about 2020. I found out it runs in my family. So my mom, I have like on top of my mom has like 5 other sisters. So I think out of the five, um, 3 of them, including my mom, have bad arthritis, along with my
Mhm.
nana. So doing jujitsu was very difficult. There have been times it's been very difficult, and plus getting older, doesn't help either. But I did my first competition. I did place third, but I was it was funny. I was so scared. I was so scared leading up to, because it was my first competition. I'm a perfectionist, so I always tell myself I'm not gonna compete until I know I'm perfect at it. And then it got to a point where I tell myself, you're not gonna be perfect at anything. You're always gonna learn. You're always gonna make mistakes, and that's what I learned from my professors and those that I rolled with at the school. They told me you're always gonna make a mistake. Doesn't matter how perfect you are. And our professor Tequeño, he told us that too. He goes, he's lost many fights before he actually started winning and became where he's at now. But I think is I had to tell myself, it's putting myself out there, just doing it. And that's what I did. I said, what? I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. I don't care. And I signed up. I did it. And maybe because I was there most of the day watching and preparing myself, by the time it came down to compete, I wasn't even scared. It was like, I'm ready to do this. Like, let's get this shit done. I want to see what I got. And the only bad thing is that I wish I would have educated myself more, like on prepping, because um, I'm a former bodybuilder too. So I did bodybuilding. I did fitness competitions, and I'm thinking of the mentality of dieting like that. And I kind of tell myself, no, I'm pretty sure it's a different diet, because you have to have certain carbs, you have to have certain things to build, to have that kind of energy to roll. And I didn't do very well in my diet. So my competition unfortunately didn't go as the way I wanted it to, but I did place third. I was, I was really getting up on the points in the beginning, from beginning almost to end. In the last 40 seconds of that, I tapped. And I think it, like I told my professor, I think it was because which I struggle with, that I'm learning now, which I remember I was telling you about that from your last podcast I was listening to, is that the when I lose control, I get, all of a sudden I start to get, I panic and I get scared because my body started to give out, because I just didn't have no energy to push, because I didn't have enough, food in me, and I was not hydrated well enough. So bad combination. And when she was on top of me, I just, when I opened my eyes and I looked up and I felt her and I saw the crowd, I just freaked and I tapped, and I was like, fuck. I was so mad at myself. So, but overall, I was proud of myself. I didn't give up. I still did it. I, and I told myself, this is something I need to work on for my next competition. And so that's what I'm doing now. In my last post, I put, I'm learning to be comfortable, uncomfortable, because they're going to be, I tell people all the time, in real life situations, this is prepping you for real life situations. In a real life situation, you don't have control over who you fight. You don't have control over the situation. All you can control is yourself and how you manage in that situation. So I'm trying to feed myself in that mentality. It's okay. You're gonna survive. You As long as you survive and you're okay, nothing's gonna happen to you. Just keep going at it. Just breathe. And I think that's another part, is learning the breathing. It's just,
Yeah.
so my next competition, I did strain um my tendon. Nothing was broken. I got checked, and they did x-rays, and the doctor did verify that I might have just pulled my tendon and overstretched it. So, and I still, it's been almost 3 weeks now, and it's still like very tight, and you can feel it, and the way my shoulder looks. So I'm thinking, maybe it's not smart if I compete. I don't know, but I still train, and I do, when I train with others, I let them know, like, hey, I'm injured. I don't feel, my shoulder hurts. But um I know in competition, you're gonna go all hard. You're gonna start slamming people. It's like no holds bars on that end. So I'm telling myself, should
Yep.
I or should I do it?
Well, I mean, the good thing though is, when you're training, you are training smart. You're being vocal about, hey, I have this injury. At the very least, give yourself a little bit of an ability, or opportunity to heal. Because yeah, once you get into the competition, they don't care. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
they want you to have an injury. Probably it's like, oh, word, your leg hurt. You're going for a knee bar today.
Oh, my wish
So
knee.
like oh, that one hurts. Okay, just mental note. Take that
Right.
out. Um, well, but good. I'm glad that it seems like you got a good hold of this art and moving forward. So I'm happy to hear that. So with your cosplay,
Mhm.
how'd that come about?
Well, so my cosplay, I've always been big in dressing up, and even within my marriage, like I've always, which I never really got to explore, and I kind of like put that on the back burner, but it's always been there, like something I've always wanted to do. And I'm like, why wait till Halloween? I love to do it. If I could do it every day, I would. you know it's just, to me, I've always loved, like, in a fantasy, just pretending and being a different person in that moment, and just have, and so that's how that came about. And so after my divorce, I said, you know what, I'm going to explore that. I'm going to dive into it, and I don't care, I'm going to do it. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what if people agree or disagree. I'm going to do it. So I started buying costumes, and on Amazon. So, I was, living on a budget. They can get expensive. And I found
Mhm.
it that they're a lot more cheaper than it is if you were to go to one of those shops. a sex
Yeah.
shop or costume shop, because they sell it maybe like $20 or $15 more than they do than on Amazon, and it's the same costume. So I started doing that. I started buying my costumes on Amazon, and I just started slowly like taking pictures. And the funny thing about it is that a lot of people think that the pictures I take are done. They think they're done with by somebody else, and it's not. It's just all me. Like my ideas, and I did a lot of research. So I'll be honest, I'm not big into anime. Like my daughters love anime, so I would watch what they would watch, and I grew interest to it, and I really liked it. And I always saw my sister dress up for the Comic-Con shows, and they even have anime expos like in LA. So my sister would
Okay.
always, and I'm like, who are you dressing up as? And she would show me the character, and I'm like, oh my God, I love it. So I was always envious of my sister, and I'm like, I want to do that too. So and I'm a big Star Wars fan. Like, I love Star Wars. I love um, DC comics. Like, I love Harley Quinn, the Joker, Batman, Wonder Woman. Hey, Superman. I love it. I love it. I grew up with another thing. My dad is he's a huge influencer and all that. I have to say maybe that's why I'm a tomboy, but but yeah, I grew up in that, like a GI Joe. Like, so I've always wanted to like dress up like my favorite character, like Wonder Woman. That's another. So Wonder Woman and Harley Quinn and Catwoman are one of the three I still want to dress up as. So, like, I want to dive into more and get real, sexy with it. So I do. Those are my Harley Quinn. She is my alter ego. Like, people always say, "Oh, you're so nice." I'm like, but yeah, bitch does live in me. Ready to come out.
It's funny because as you mentioned those three specifically, I look over at my shelf and I was like, I have my Wonder Woman statue, my Harley Quinn statue, my
Ah,
Catwoman Play Arts Kai figure, all sitting in that
wow.
order. Actually, this basement is full of just action figures. Some people are like, oh, dolls. It's like, no, they're action figures.
Yeah,
Dolls, like have
those are Barbies.
clothes. Yeah. Like, I have a Harley Quinn shelf right here in front of me, with four Harley Quinn figures in a picture. And I
Yeah.
got some DC things going on. Actually, um, moments ago, I just ordered a Wonder Woman figure.
Wow.
I
That's awesome.
was like, oh shit, I never pressed send on that. So let me press submit payment. So, like, all right,
I like
we're
it.
like, we're on the same wavelength there.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like, and the thing I like about Harley Quinn is that, because my daughter, she really explained a little bit of the history of Harley Quinn to me, and the more I started to learn about her, I was like, wow, I sound a lot like her. Like, I can relate to her, because she's, you see her, she's very professional. She started off as, very like I hate to say that word, but like mediocre, just like everyday professional woman,
yeah,
living her life. But deep down, she has something inside her that wants to come out, that maybe she's afraid of it to come out, and she's afraid to be judged about it, and that people are going to look at her weird. And that's just like the same thing with me. Like, I was that way, where I had to suppress a lot of how I felt, a lot of what I wanted to do and get involved in and express myself, because of judgment. And then after my divorce, and I had a really deep discussion with my friends. I'm like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care what anyone says. This is my life. I want to live my life to the fullest, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And if I want to dress up and be raunchy or sexy or playful or feisty with it, I'm going to do it. I don't care. And I'm going to have fun with it. And I am going to be a badass with it. So, and I love that about Harley Quinn. She's just, she's wild, she's daring, she's out there, and she takes no shit, and she's gonna, fuck you up too at the same time.
but I think that's something you mentioned there though with Harley Quinn. It's like there's someone else inside trying to get out. I,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us can semi relate to that. Just we go on and we live our day to day lives, but sometimes you hear on the news somebody didn't snap, somebody didn't push somebody too far, and they got
Yeah.
to that point where they're like, gotta let it out. Uh,
Yeah.
so,
Very
but
true.
it's also just as you're growing and finding yourself and exploring, who you are. It's good that you've come to um, you know, these discoveries. I mean, again, with jujitsu, with cosplay, those are two things that most people will see like, oh, like how long you been doing this? Since you're like teenager, like what's going on? It's like, oh
Yeah.
no, these are newer things that I get to discover now as an adult. I get to find these passions and run with them. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely. That's it's funny because I was thinking about that. I was like, when you had asked for me to 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 be a guest on your podcast, I was like, but I'm like, I'm not like some of the people that follow you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, because I just barely started into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I but the one thing I can say is I love martial arts, and yes, this art is very new to me. It's very new. I've always seen MMA. I will be honest, I had a hard time watching because I do have like a little scary thing when it comes to seeing blood. And I'm like, I try not to freak out. I'm like, I don't know if I can watch that. But you know what? I think after doing jujitsu and just getting used to the fact of watching bodies getting slammed and even yourself getting slammed, it's
Mhm.
kind of like you grow it's not, I would say numb to it, but you grow accustomed to it. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I like somebody getting slammed, getting hit. Doesn't look good, but but yeah, it's something I learned, and I love. I'll be honest, I see now. I think I learned to appreciate the art, even though yes, it is it can be a very deadly sport, but with jujitsu and watching MMA the two help me appreciate each other because it's you learn techniques, you learn to see where a person did good and where a person could have done better, I guess, and you learn how to incorporate the skill and kind of blend everything together, and it's just and also educating yourself. So it's I really appreciate the sport, and jujitsu, even though I'm fairly new to it, I love it. I really love it. I first, even though I'm older into the game with this, and it's funny because I've heard people tell me, well, you're old, you're getting older, your body is, going to give out. I'm like, sure, that I think that would happen to anyone. Your body does slowly deteriorate, but if you to learn to listen to your body, learn how to take care of your body, everything is in with good reason. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to completely stop. You could still do certain things if you're capable of, but doesn't mean you have to stop because of your age. I mean, if you look at some of these in China or in Japan, these older martial artists, that if you see videos of them that I have seen of them doing martial arts, and these are men and older in generation, like they're amazing at what they can do at their age, and I'm like, wow. So we limit ourselves mentally, and I tell myself that we if I were to limit myself based on how I feel in age, then I will never accomplish what I want to.
Yeah.
So
I always say, especially these days, over the last few years, being 40, with myself being mid 40s at this point, is different today versus 20, 30 years ago, where I remember growing up being a kid, seeing all the adults in my neighborhood as we were kids playing touch football in the street, and they're don't bump into my car, kid, and just it's
Yeah.
almost like they hated kids, you
Yes.
know, and
Yeah.
and they're grumpy all the time, and it's like nowadays, I see people, mid 30s to mid 40s out there pursuing passions and living
Mhm.
their lives. I mean, I found jujitsu when I was what 37. That's yeah, that seems right. About 37 or so.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking when I turned 40, it was like, man, this would have been something that you know we would have done years ago. Finding this martial art at such a late age. The idea was always like you do martial arts as a kid and you grow into it, and then even still, you didn't
Mhm.
really think about it like, oh, you grow into it. It's just like I had a good friend. He was a black belt in Taekwondo,
Yeah.
and that's how I discovered the UFC and jiu-jitsu was through him. Like his parents rented the VHSs for him when we were kids, and we watched the first two UFCs on VHS, and then I think later on the third and the fourth one, or maybe the third one. Then I think we watched the fourth or the fifth one live. They ordered it,
Mhm.
but as kids, you're discovering this versus now. It's like you can be in your 30s and 40s and find these things and pursue them. And our communities, they're welcoming.
Yeah.
You, you walk into a jiu-jitsu gym, and it's not like the old Cobra Kai days where you know you go in and everybody's like aggressive and don't want you there and they're territorial.
Yeah.
No, you walk in these gyms now and it's like they welcome you in almost immediately. You become part of the family, and that's real helpful, especially when we're older. Like I
Gosh.
said, when you're older, you're not out there trying to make friends. You're just trying to live your life.
Right? Like I'm just trying to get here and go. That's all I'm trying to do. Get to the gym and go home.
I got shit to do. I ain't trying to sit here and converse with you after class. But they make it, a lot of these gyms, they make it so inviting though. After you
Yeah.
get done training, you sit around, you ask questions, you might drill a little bit. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I have to say that I love my teammates. That's just how it is, and that's where that's and even I've also visited a sister gym to there's Soul Fighters in Peoria as well. That's under Professor Tim, who that's his gym that he has in Peoria. But when I went to visit, they were the same way, and it's funny because usually when you go to a new gym, you don't really not people come and introduce themselves or talk to you, but maybe to like after or during, but it was interesting. I was kind of off to the side, and I talked to Tim and let him know I'm here, to visit, and where I was coming, and that I also train at the headquarters Soul Fighters in Tempe, and he's like, sure. So he invited me, and he, very welcoming, and I'm sitting there waiting for the class to end to do no-gi, and I just thought it was really awesome. Like everyone just came in and introduced themselves, and they knew I was new there and just, welcomed me. And it just felt like, I like if I like they didn't even make me feel like I was new. Like I've been there like all the time. So that was such a welcoming feeling. So
Good.
I can say, and that's one thing about the community, especially here in Arizona. The Brazilian Jiu Jitsu community is very small and very tight, knit as well. And even when I went and visited the lab, they were the same way. They were very, welcoming, very, very inviting. So, and even when you're training and you tell them, you're new to this, they were very respectful of that. So, and the yeah, and the coach there also that teaches the coaches and the professor that teaches the class are awesome.
Good, good. With you, like grappling now, and then also you have your cosplay now. That's kind
Mhm.
of two worlds colliding because you see a
Yeah.
lot of people come in with the cool rash guards and spats, and hell, some gis now. You have
Yeah.
any? cool like gear yet, you know, for the mats that kind of represent your comic book personas, or looking
Honestly,
towards doing any?
you know what? I did try. Well, not so much the anime, but the Raiders. Like I did have an idea. I'm like, maybe I should put uh like a Raider patch like somewhere, or get like a Raider rash guard. I did research it, and how funny, they have rash guards for other teams but no for Raiders. But then I
Really?
thought, but if I do that, I might get a lot of people that were going to try to really hurt me. Who knows?
Like get
But
run into some Broncos fans out there like,
right.
really?
But you know what?
Like,
I'm a force to be reckoned with. So
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like I said, I see anyone wearing Raider stuff. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and fall back real quick. I mean, I'm a Lions fan. So I can't say nothing as a Lions fan. Like, but as a matter of fact, if I saw anybody with a Lions rash guard on, I just like, what the fuck you doing?
right, go change your
Like,
shit. Go back into the dressing
don't tell nobody we out here like that.
room.
Yeah, not until we can win 8 games at
Right.
least. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
excuse me.
no, that's right. I got the power of edit. I'm gonna clear that right up.
Thank you.
Oh, well, that's with the community for both cosplay and jiu-jitsu, I always find it really really cool when I see somebody cross those. So I have a Green Lantern rash guard. I wear it from time. I think I wore it this week to training,
Okay.
but I always try to wear it from time to time. My one coach, he hates Green Lantern.
Really?
It's like, do you even have a reason to dislike Green Lantern? Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't. You just wanted to be angry. Relax, dude. Meanwhile, if I come into Spider-Man or Deadpool, everybody's like, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like Green Lantern.
yeah.
That was a terrible movie. Green Lantern sucked as a movie. It's like, have you read a Green Lantern comic book? Like,
Right.
it's pretty fucking cool. Like, it's not just the Green Lantern. There's blue. There's fucking white. There's black, red, orange.
Right. The beautiful
There's a whole
colors.
spectrum.
And
Like,
see, you know what? I'm giving me some ideas. Like I didn't even think about that, but like I would do a Harley Quinn, and I remember I saw a because she's dope. And when you see, if I were to see a woman and she was a BJJ, and she had a Harley Quinn, I'm like, oh, that bitch is crazy. Like she's about to beat me up. But
I feel like I've reposted someone in a Harley Quinn outfit. I think. Let me take a look here.
but
Let's
yeah,
see. There
I
she
would.
is. So there's one. Do I have her in her training gear? Uh oh no, don't lose it. Double backed. All right. Hold on. I get you right here. Is this? I know that's representing Harley, but it doesn't look like it. So we're gonna go elsewhere. I
Okay,
know she's in Harley. She's in Harley Quinn gear for sure.
nice. I
Oh,
like
so it's
that.
it's kind of like sported out, like
Ah,
from Suicide
oh,
Squad.
yes, yeah. Their daddy's little monster shirt.
Yeah.
I have that shirt.
So my daughter wants to be Harley Quinn for Halloween. My wife was like, absolutely not, and I think it's because
Oh,
she's thinking that's what she'll go with that route.
oh,
Um,
I like
but
that.
but
I
yeah,
love that.
I think Harley Quinn is a easy one to kind of get away with. I see people in Spider Man and Deadpool a lot, so it's fun to blend the worlds.
And you know what?
So
And it is because it isn't. It's just it's a very unique style because we all have we all have our lives outside of jujitsu, but why not blend both passions? A little bit of with the Raiders, a little bit of Harley or Joker, or because yeah, if I could do the Joker, I would do a Joker too with the ha ha ha, and
I'm sure it's out there. It's got to be out there. I'm sure it is.
and see, and I will admit, like Suicide Squad was the movie. Oh my gosh, I love it. Was for once that I really love how the bad guys came together to do something good. And I'm thinking, yes, you know, bad guys, but I guess I've always loved a, something about a bad guy because they're not
Oh,
always bad, I guess, but
it's complicated.
yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's a very luring, like very enticing kind of like, ooh, what I wonder what makes him bad, you know, like just one, I don't know, just exciting kind of thing. And like Harley, because I'm so much, I love Harley and I love what how she is and the way she goes about herself. I just would love to blend that with just jujitsu and just be like, you know what, you just in that moment when you're have that in competition. I could imagine if I were to wear that nogi in a competition. Oh my gosh, how that other person would probably feel. But I also saw mouth guard, and I told my professor, I'm like, what if I told him that I thought about buying it, and it had the caption or the wording on it said, "Bitch, please."
I mean, like stuff like that, though, it's, you'll be remembered.
Yes.
It stands out. So I say go for it, do it. Like,
And see, I love to be different. I that's one thing about me is um I'm not I feel like nothing should have to be black and white. I don't think life is not black and white. We're
yeah,
all we're all complicated in a sense of we all have things that people are not going to understand. People are not going to really relate, or some are will. And in this sense, you know, I don't know. I love to make things fun. I love to enjoy. I love to just, you know, if I want to, you know, why does it have to be just strictly this? Can we also do this? Like, I always like to venture out and just try new things.
I think that's the spice of life, though, is just that venturing out and trying new things. And also, though, what makes you, that, incorporate your personality into your hobbies and the things that you enjoy doing. If you can't, then it's like, what are you really doing? Like, are you hiding, or, what's going on?
Right.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. 100%.
like, I have, well, I went through my closet and cleared out a lot of old t-shirts. I had like 70 some odd comic book t-shirts. I was
Hmm.
like, okay, it's time to like downsize because I don't wear I have like a handful of shirts I choose to wear, and then I have my jiu-jitsu shirts. Um, I have a couple BJJ Wiki shirts. You guys should go check that out. BJJ dot
Yeah.
BJJWiki.net. Get on it. Um, and then my buddy Zach, I love wearing this shirt. It says "introverted but willing to discuss jujitsu." I love wearing this shirt probably everywhere, just any chance I get. But that's my personality, though. It's like I'm definitely introverted, but hey, if y'all want to talk jiu-jitsu, I'm all in. They got, wore it on the way to the wedding, got dressed. I was like, can I wear this under the shirt? So once it's time to like, loosen up, I can let people know. But,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like at the end of it all, though, you want to definitely, have fun with what you're doing. Otherwise, if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying it, then why are you even doing it?
Exactly. Exactly. That's how it's funny because I was just telling and I was sharing it with you. It's like I was, you know, telling you that about how my life is chaotic. You know, like I can be like if I don't plan things for me, if I don't plan out what my day is going to be, it's chaos. But how funny when I hit the gym and I'm watching Professor explain the technique. Granted, I'm still trying to grasp like what he's saying, but the moment I start doing it, it makes sense to me. Like it just makes sense. And when I start rolling, it just makes everything just makes sense. It's like I can do things and put it together. And it's funny because I'm starting to learn to see how jujitsu is almost like chess. It's really like chess. It's like you can set up how you want a move to go to kind of either to see how your opponent is going to react to it, and if they react the way you want, and then you can create that move. And if they don't react the way you want, but you see an opportunity, then you go and you take that opportunity, or you or play that like the psych move, where you make them think that you're about to do this, but in reality you have in mind intentionally to do this. So I like that. I love what I love about jiu-jitsu. It makes me think, and I never get bored with it. And I think that because it does that for me, that's why it makes sense. Because and it's funny, even though at the time I may not fully grasp what professor is saying, but when we start to live roll, when we start to go at it, I would do all of a sudden it just comes to me as I'm doing it, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm like, I did it. And I'm like, I want to do it again.
It's that muscle memory. It's like once you start to get that flow, once you start to get the comfort and know and confidence. That's a big thing too. Because I know for myself, there's sometimes I'd skip out on doing the move because I wasn't confident. I don't attack
Yeah.
because I'm not confident with attacking. I just started forcing myself to start like get their back, get them in your guard and then start attacking. And it all comes together. Once it starts to piece together, then we're like, oh shit, I am a martial artist. So
right. And
I didn't know I could do this.
I didn't even know I could do that black backflip and
Yeah.
roll back over and jump on their back.
It's like doing a rolling Kimura. It's like, holy shit, that was on accident, but pretend it was
Right?
on purpose. Like you want to feel like you really did this.
What's funny is that it's funny because one of my friends that I roll with, because with me, how I post my cosplay, my costumes, my Raider posts and stuff. But I remember we were rolling. He goes, man, he goes, Kat, you're getting really good. He goes, man, you've been watching all those, Instagram and TikTok videos, haven't you? And I'm like, yeah, I said, I know how to fool you guys, kind of put a distraction out there. But in the background, I'm really learning some kill moves here. Doing my practice, getting ready for the mat.
Hey, always throw them off. Never let them know what your next move is going to be.
Exactly. So. You just can't. But one thing I was going to say too, that I was remembering about when training is that I have, even as a life skill, not just in training, but I also incorporate that in fighting, is when I know I've made a mistake, I can own up to it and tell myself, okay, that needs to be corrected the next time around. And when I catch myself doing it, I'm like, oh no. Then I realize, okay, that that needs to be corrected. And that's one thing I can say about myself. I'm always open to learning. I'm very open to critiquing, like from whomever, if someone critiques me, because they see obviously what you can't see. And when I start to see myself and see what they're saying, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm like, yeah, that I can't do. So the beauty of being open-minded like that with learning how to be that, I think that should, creates a very skilled fighter, is when they realize their own mistakes and perfect it so that they don't make that same mistake, and learn how to, okay, this is not a good move. This is, let me do this. I'm going to do this way. Then I'm going to try this one. That obviously didn't work then, so I do try to incorporate that too along when doing jiu-jitsu.
Good. When you're headed into class, getting ready to train and just preparing, what's your mindset going in? Are you, do you open up and just say, look, I'm a blank slate and I'm trying to absorb this? Or you coming in with kind of an ideal of, look, I need to work on this from last class. I want to really focus on, retaining guard, or do you have a plan going in, or is it just come into class and just absorb what you get and then, revise notes later?
It was like that at first, where I would just go in, with no plan intentions, no intentions, just going in, practice, and leave. that was it for me. But then as I told myself I really want to be well at this sport and especially compete, I need to be a little bit more self-aware. So I started, researching, and I started learning more about it. And one thing I've learned during my research is that um, is set a goal in place. If it's whether if it's a week or a few however many days you want to set this goal up, so that way you can achieve the overall goal and accomplishing it. So that's what I started doing. Like before I started competing, I wanted to start working on takedowns because I'm awful at starting from the feet, and I was afraid because of my bad knees. I was always afraid to like engage in a takedown. But then I had to tell myself, you have to, because that's where a lot of all fights, majority fights start from, is from standing. So you have to learn how to take somebody down. So I started telling myself for the next month, it's good. I mean, that's long, but it was for competition. I'm like, I'm gonna work on takedowns. I don't care what kind of takedown, or with one particular, I stuck to three particular takedowns, and I said I'm gonna perfect these three. So that's what I started doing. And then after class, I would ask, one of my good friends there, and I'm like, can I practice with you just for for a while, so I can perfect this. So that's what or get used to it and learn the move. So I would do that. I started doing that, and I still do, even though I'm not sure if when I want to compete again, but still for the overall to better myself and be better at this, skilled fighter, being a better skilled fighter, a great skilled fighter, is setting goals. So that's what I'm starting to do now. And so my goal for this week or the next few weeks is just practicing being uncomfortable, you know, like I have a big fear of claustrophobia, and when I'm in a tight space, when I don't have control of my body, that freaks me out. And so I'm learning that I have to be okay with that, and that there is a way out. You just got to work through it. So that's a major goal for me to work on.
Right? Awesome, awesome. Well, it's good, going into this having just that goals and a plan versus just going in and winging it. You
Yeah.
will learn, but it's going to take a longer path. So
Oh yeah.
happy to hear that.
It definitely will. Definitely.
Like, I trust me, I know from experience myself, just going in there and winging it. And then one day I was like, I guess I should probably have a plan. And we're slowly working back to our plans.
And it's interesting you said, because I was feeling the same way, and then as I started doing that, I started noticing my fighting skills became better and more precise, and I became a less spazzy white belt, like they
That's
say,
the first step.
and to learn to be patient with the move, like kind of like chess. Chess, you don't see the players in a hurry to set their pieces because they're trying to hurry up and get you. That's not the key to it. The key is, if you want to, if to be a good fighter, a skilled fighter, you have to know the opponent. You have to be ready to be put in a situation. So I have learned, and I will learn to from, and especially from other higher belts that I've trained with, they will tell me, and even with watching, especially the black belts, what I liked about them and I noticed about them is that they wait for you, and they kind of like huddle up, like they act defenseless. And but in my head, I'm like, you're not defenseless. You can take me down. But they're giving you, they're waiting for the opportunity. And I've learned that about them. And I had to tell myself to learn to do the same, with other people. Make them think they have an opportunity. And when the moment, just like a snake, and when the moment comes, then you strike, and then you go hard, and then you get them in the move you want to get them once you have them. And that's how I see, like, higher belts. That's kind of what they do. So I started incorporating that along with working on my goal. And it's just, I have noticed, and I had a few of my teammates tell me that they have noticed that my movements have become more um, not just fluid, but very precise. So it was nice. It was a nice compliment.
Good. Last question before we wrap up here.
Okay.
So, what's something you wish you would have been told coming into this that you've kind of, found out along the way just from, you know, practicing being on the mat yourself?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I guess is I guess what I wish I would have known now then that I know now is not to be afraid. You know, not to be afraid. Um, oh wow, you got me thinking. I mean, wow, that's um yeah, I would say so much that not to be afraid, like to not to be afraid to engage, because I was always saying sorry, you know, like because I'm afraid to hurt someone, I learned that along the way, like it's okay, we all gonna hurt each other, not intentionally, but that's what we're trained to do. We're trained to fight, you know, we're fighters. So um, I would say so much that aspect, because that is something I struggled with, you know. So
I agree. I think that's something a lot of us could really utilize in the beginning is not being afraid to engage, not being afraid to just not being afraid because
right,
it is fucking scary. It's a scary
it is.
sport. So
It can be very intimidating. Very
mhm.
intimidating.
I've been training for a few years and it's still intimidating.
Yes, it can be. It can be. And I would say so much that it's not to be afraid to engage, because I always try to I always try to tell myself in real life situations, you if you're put in a bad situation, you have to engage, it's a fight or flight. And if you're not thinking clearly, your mistakes are going to happen. But if you can think, and that's one thing I love about jujitsu is, in martial arts, I guess overall itself, is it teaches you to be calm within yourself, and to come in the situation very calmly, and to not get all like frustrated and ready to, you know, scared or whatever the how you feeling, to control. You have to have a lot of self control, because if you don't, think bad things are going to happen. But that, I would say, is learning a self control, you know, not to be afraid to, it's gonna be okay, you got this, you know. So but yeah.
And
Great question, I like that.
you're absolutely right. Just understanding is you got this. So that's good. Um, well, Kat, thank you for doing this. I know it was kind of sprung on you almost kind of last minute. I sent you the message the other day and was like, well, like, let's record as soon as possible. So here we are.
You know what,
Um,
I loved it. I was I'll be honest, I was very nervous, but it's almost like it's we've known each other for years. I loved it.
well, I mean, like I said, I try to have a flow to this where it's conversation and I want everybody to feel comfortable. I want everybody to know it's super casual when you come on here. They, we're not professionals here. We are just regular old people. We cuss. We make mistakes. We cough. We sneeze in the middle of recording. Oh, and people don't hear that because I'll edit
Right.
that stuff out. But we're people. And people are like, "Oh no, I'm sorry." It's like, don't be sorry. I have control of this. I can edit, so we're good.
Yeah.
Um, Before we get out of here, are there any mentions or shout outs that you have, and where can we find you on social media?
um Well, I want to make a big shout out to my school, my teammates. You know, especially going out there in Vegas and representing all the Soul Fighter teams. You know, and just want to say I love you guys. You guys are all amazing, amazing group of schools. And I'm on Instagram. I do have Facebook, but I'm not really on there. But I'm
No
mainly
one.
engaged more on Instagram. I'm on BJJ Cat and the underscore. So that's where you can find me. And yeah.
And
I want to say a big shout out to for all my Raider fan pages that I follow, the Raider team, the fan base, everybody. Love you guys.
I'll be sure to put the Instagram handle in the notes, and I'm not gonna shout the Raiders out in the notes or nothing. They're
What?
just gonna have
You
to.
can't do that. It's like
Nah,
shutting me out.
they got to put their ears on to get that shout out. I'm a Lions fan. I got pride issues. We don't we don't bump nobody shit here. So um, and as usual, everyone listening, thank you so much. We do appreciate you. If y'all have any questions, concerns, criticisms, anything, reach out to me. You can find me at djj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Man's Podcast on Instagram as well. Um, as always, big shout out to Armbar Addict. It's my good friends Eric and Ali. They relocated. I was always saying, hey, up there in Denver, Colorado. It turns out they went down to Texas. So you can still, go check them out. Go check out their Facebook, or I don't think they have Facebook. Maybe they do. But check out their Instagram. Check out the website, armbaraddict.com. And I think they're on TikTok too. They do some TikTok, and they're part of the young crowd. So go check them out. Also, big shout out to Asgard 503, my good friend Mike over there, friend of the podcast, and just a great guy overall. Go give him a check out on Instagram, Asgard 503, and also check out the website, asgard503.com. Go grab yourself a nice gi, rash guards, some shorts, some gear. Go check them out. And then last, and maybe a little bit least, my other podcast, So You Like Horror. Go check it out. Instagram is So You Like Horror. All the words are separated by underscores. We talk about scary movies. We talk about just scary situations. And sometimes we just sit around and talk. It may not even be scary. It may just be talking about nonsense. But either way, go check it out and enjoy yourselves. Otherwise, thank you again, everybody. Love you to death. Y'all keep listening, and I will keep making these shows. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Deeper with it. Now let me sing a song.